Welcome back to COVID Chats. My guest today is Emma Sinkoff. Emma is my cousin and a senior at Penn State University majoring in healthcare. It was great chatting with her and getting the perspective of an undergrad now 4 weeks into the process of full-time online learning. She is certainly making the most of a difficult situation. Now on to episode 17 of COVID Chats. Hello, Emma, and welcome to episode
Hello.
17 of COVID Chats.
Good to be here.
Great to have you here. My first family member on the podcast, video series, whatever you want to call it. It's very exciting.
Very, very exciting. I'm happy to be here. I haven't been doing too much during quarantine, so this is nice to switch it up a bit.
Well, I'm happy to switch it up with you. Glad we can get some FaceTime. Always great to see family members, and you in particular have a unique perspective, which I'm excited to explore.
Sure. Yeah.
So actually, part of why you came to my mind for this was you left a comment on the very first COVID chat that I did with a friend of mine, Sarah Pomerantz, who's a senior at Rutgers, and you expressed some desire to share your perspective. And I'm actually glad that we held off a little bit because I think doing it now will be very interesting to juxtapose to that first episode, because you yourself are a college senior, but now we're sort of 4-ish weeks removed from that crazy situation where things were shutting down. I'm wondering, what was it like for you at Penn State, where this was going on? Was it as disorganized as other universities, or did they do a decent job, you think?
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. So I was actually on spring break during the time that I found out that students couldn't come back to campus, and pretty upset to begin with, because I was actually, for spring break, I was planning to go to Honduras on a service trip that I had worked for along with one of my friends for basically the year, and we were working to take some students down, and of course that didn't happen.
Right.
So we took a little spring break trip in place of that, and then figured out, during those days over spring break that we wouldn't come back to we wouldn't be back at Penn State. So it's pretty disappointing, honestly, like not, of course, how I expected my senior year to be ending. And I think the biggest part is just, for me, I've grown so much since my freshman year. So I was really looking to kind of finish everything off my last semester at Penn State. So huge disappointment, of course, just not being able to see friends and,
right.
Professors and all that. But yeah, so basically came home and been here since. So, yep.
So it sounds like at least for you, yes, you were on spring break, but the information got to you clearly, and it was outlined. It wasn't like, some of the situations, things were changing every hour at universities. They were like packing up dorms, they weren't. It was crazy. So
yeah, everything was pretty much communicated to Penn State students. They set different days where like students could come back, and either if you were living in a dorm or off campus, when you could kind of come back and collect some stuff. But yeah, it was pretty set in stone. They were basically like, these are the days, these are the times that you can come back. And besides that, you can't really be coming back on campus. So,
right.
Yep.
Well, sometimes it's the little things. At least they did a decent job of that, because, that's certainly when all this was going on initially, stress levels and anxiety were incredibly high, as well with coping with everything changing, and
for sure
change. So I mean, we got to count our little organizational blessings there, so to speak.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll get emails, just kind of Penn State keeping us in the loop about kind of graduation, commencement, summer internships for people, all that kind of stuff. So they're pretty transparent with the information. Anything that they know, we'll know as well, which is nice.
And what's it been like, now that we're kind of a little bit hopefully adjusted to this online learning phase of finishing out the year? How's that been for you?
Um, it's it's hard. It's definitely not the best way to learn. And it's on both ends. Like professors don't love to teach online, and students don't like to learn online.
Of course.
So it's definitely not as engaging as a normal classroom in person would be.
Mm,
But I think that overall, people are able to manage as much as they can.
mm,
Um, but it's been difficult to adjust, just to kind of keep motivated and stay on top of stuff, and make sure that things are getting done. But I mean, one of the nice things about it is that it's kind of close to the end of the year, so it's not like this has been
right.
going on all year.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. And it's taken a bit of time for me to get to this place where like kind of get the drill down and everything. But it definitely did take some time. But I think over the last 4 weeks, I've been able to adjust pretty well. So
Mm.
yeah.
Do you feel like what you're learning at all has maybe informed your outlook at all? Like, how do you see your major playing a role into maybe your outlook or your learning? Like, has it been easier for you as opposed to other majors who maybe like been struggling?
Yeah, well, it's so interesting because, like, for me, I mean, a lot of my work is just it's writing based.
Mm,
In the healthcare world as a healthcare major, a lot of it is reading, writing, that kind of stuff. But I can imagine I've talked to some of my friends who, um, are more in the hard sciences, and they
right.
take like lab courses,
Right.
and that's kind of, you can't take a bio lab like online. That's kind of, obviously doesn't work. So
Mm,
um, in terms of my learning environment, it's been fine, because I've been able to read and write a lot. But I know for a lot of my friends, it's a lot of teachers had to alter the way that kind of the end of the year syllabus went because of all this stuff.
right.
So yeah.
And have you been reading anything? I mean, in the healthcare world, of course, this virus has the healthcare world in the front page. They're on the front lines. Everybody's thinking about them, talking about them. Is there anything? I mean, of course, we wish them all the best and we thank them for their service. I compared them sort of to troops coming home in a previous episode because I think that's kind of how everybody's looking at them right now. Is there anything maybe regarding patients or doctors or nurses that relates to your studies somehow? I mean, I know that's it's a little broad, but
Yeah, well, it's interesting actually. So recently in one of my classes, I'm taking a healthcare quality class, and it kind of touches every corner about our healthcare system right now in terms of quality,
mm,
and how nurses, doctors, people who are in the clinical world versus the administrative world, how to kind of keep the quality of the healthcare system up amidst all of this stuff going on. So that's a little piece of it that's actually been pretty interesting because um, especially in my healthcare classes, I've been able to, professors have really pulled in the COVID-19 stuff um, as a learning tool in
yeah,
terms of what we're doing in class. So in
absolutely,
that sense, actually, yeah, it's been pretty helpful.
yeah,
Um, and it's been interesting. Like, it's more stimulating to be learning about something that's really going on.
exactly.
Um, so yeah, in that sense, it's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's the best real world example you could have, something ongoing that everyone's living through. I mean,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
this is something that's not only great to be studied now, but is certainly going to be studied for years to come. I mean, this is a once in a generation event, maybe even more
Yeah.
than a generation, right? Multi
It's
generation.
huge. It's
Huge.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's crazy how our perspectives on it have changed as the days and weeks have gone by. It's like,
Yeah. No, as both my parents say, we're living through history, which is entirely true. We are. So, um, yeah.
so switching gears a little bit in terms of the social ties. I know you were in a sorority, right? And I was in a fraternity in college.
I'm not in a sorority, but
Oh,
I was part of the club cross country team. And so that really,
I don't know why I
kind
thought
of,
sorority.
I don't know.
Uh-oh. Okay. So club cross country, have you guys been doing Zoom meetings and things of that? Have you been keeping up those sorts of social ties?
Yeah, so all my roommates and all my friends mostly came from running. So that's how kind of the group of my gals started off. Even my freshman year, still close friends with everyone. So I guess the best way that we've been keeping in touch is through Zoom. So thank God for technology, because we still have that. It's obviously not the same. It's very different, but yeah, it's been good to chat with everyone, try to stay connected as much as possible. And I mean, we've had some different like theme nights. We've done a wine night together. We've done some little we played like some game nights. So yeah, it's been fun. Try to stay as connected as we can. Um, and then I've FaceTimed with a lot of other friends, some mentors.
Mm.
So in that way, I've been able to stay connected. It's obviously not the same as in person,
Right.
but as far as trying to stay connected socially, that's the best way to do it right now. So,
Yeah.
but it's been good. It's been good to do that. And we always keep saying to each other that one day we'll make it back to Penn State, but that's still up in the air. So not sure when that's going to happen, but yeah.
Yeah. Is there an iconic racetrack on the Penn State campus that you guys talk about running around sort of one more time, or?
Yeah, so we have all these runs that we do together. So I mean that was like the one thing that I was looking forward to is kind of finishing off the last few months of my senior year, kind of doing the runs and the courses that we've always done together. Of course that will not be happening, but hopefully I'll make it back to Penn State for one last run at some point. So yeah, right now we're virtual running instead.
Yeah, so I was going to ask
Yeah.
you about that. Have you guys been doing that, sort of comparing times between folks? Have you been able to get out and run with a mask on, or do you have a Peloton or a treadmill or something?
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of running. I know that my friends have also been doing a lot of running. I've been running with mostly my dad and my brother right now. That's been put in place of my friends. But
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of like those things that you can share online basically around like comparing times and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people, but
Oh, okay. Hyper competitive
so
in that regard.
yeah, no.
No. Yeah, it's a
But
cool thing.
yeah, it's been fun. It's been one way to stay sane through all this, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Stay active, definitely.
definitely.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
we need that exercise. We need a little sunlight, certainly.
Yeah, trying to get out as much as possible, for
Yeah.
sure. What has it been, have you been able to get out in the city? Or
Not a little bit,
yeah,
not too much. I try not to go out more than necessary. If it's
yeah,
shopping, go early in the morning while the lines are
right,
basically non-existent.
right.
Of course, mask and gloves when you go out. In fact,
Yep,
Cuomo actually, I think just today, mandated that. So now
yeah,
you can be fined if you're not wearing a mask outside,
right.
which I think is good.
Yeah,
This is the time for strong mandates. We still need it. It seems like we're kind of plateauing in terms of infection rate and death rate, and maybe we're on the downtrend, but we still have a long way to go. We need to do our best. But yeah, no, I've been trying to get out a little bit. My building has a scaffolding around it.
oh my goodness.
It's been in permanent construction repair for a while now. But the one benefit about having a scaffolding is that you can use the bar as a little pull-up, push-up, pull-up, chin-up
You're
bar.
getting your
Yeah,
you're getting your
so
pull-ups in that way. There you
exactly.
go.
So, when I go outside, I try to pop off a couple pull-ups, of course, gloves and mask on. Don't worry. But
Stay safe. That's the
yeah,
first priority. Yep.
scaffoldings aren't the most sanitary, certainly.
Probably not. That's
Yeah.
okay though.
But yeah, if you're wearing the mask, I think it's okay. But yeah, besides that, I don't really go out. I was
Yeah.
doing some biking earlier on, and I mean, biking with a mask would be okay. But the issue with biking and sort of jogging a little bit, at least in the city, is that a lot of those areas where people are doing it, there's people in front of you, people behind you,
Right.
a lot of heavy breathing, there's
Right.
spit droplets coming out into the air, like
Everyone's spitting on you. Yeah, it just
yeah,
doesn't work out.
it's not the most healthy. So I've since that sort of, I guess, realization came to me, and there was some Dutch study actually about that. I kind of stopped doing the biking, so that's a shame because I love biking. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
yeah, basically small walks and then little shopping. And that's basically it.
Yeah. Yep. It's all we can do right now.
Yeah,
So
it is. And I know you mentioned you've been keeping in touch with your friends, Zooming and things like that. I'm wondering, what are college students talking about? Do you guys try to avoid talking about the Rona, as I've heard it's being put,
yeah.
or are you guys, just trying to persevere and keep those bonds the same way that they were before it?
Yeah, for sure. It's just weird. I think it's just a weird situation for everyone. It's like, obviously we know, we know what's going on. But it does become exhausted to, we all get exhausted talking about it. So it's like, there's only so much that you can say about the virus. And then, it's kind of funny. People are like, "Oh, so what'd you do today?" Well, the same thing that we did the day before, the day before, the day before. So, I mean, we try to not talk about the virus,
Mm.
just because it's just not fun talking about it. It's the reason why we're not at school. So, but yeah, we try to mix it up. Trying to talk about things that aren't related to the virus, and I mean, because I have a lot of friends who are runners. It's always about working out or making a meal, or just kind of what we're doing every day, our daily lives. But yeah, just trying to stay positive in our conversations rather than actual talk about the virus, which I think is a good thing, because it can get kind of depressing to talk about it too much. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't want to harp on it. I won't keep you too long on this. Don't worry.
Yeah, please don't.
um, but yeah, no, I don't know. I think it's at the same time, I do agree. We don't want to harp on it. We don't want to talk too much about it. I think the more we sort of talk about it, the more, at least for me, the easier it becomes to sort of adjust to the reality.
Yeah.
Because I think, as you said, sort of it's like what I do today. Oh, same thing I did yesterday. Same thing I
Right.
did before. Like we start to go a little internally haywire if
Right.
we try to just sort of bull through. And I
Right.
think talking about it a little bit more, opens us up a little bit. We sort of reconnect with some of those first feelings we had around it. See how we've changed about it. Sort of like our own, a version of talk therapy, if you will.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, it's definitely becoming more of a, I mean, 4 weeks ago, this was kind of such a new thing to everyone. Now it's becoming kind of part of our daily lives. So I think in that sense, like, it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind that, keep hoping, we're all together on this kind of thing. Because it's still here. It's whether or not we want to face that, it's still something we're all going through.
Yeah.
So, and we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'll talk about that with my friends, but try not to dwell on it too much. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
definitely fair. Were
Yeah.
there any extracurriculars you were doing at school? How have those changed in terms of other maybe clubs or
Yeah.
organizations or things you went to?
Yeah. So one of the things that I was working on before kind of all this happened, um, was the what I talked about a little bit before about planning this trip to Honduras.
Mm.
So I was actually planning this trip with Penn State Hillel, and that was a big part of my year building up to spring break. And that would have happened during spring break. And kind of would have stayed connected to some of those people in terms of kind of seeing them on campus a lot. I was pretty involved with Hillel on campus at Penn State. So of course I kind of would have kept going. And it's a little bit harder now that we're not there.
Right.
So that's kind of one thing I would have kept up with. Um, would have kept running with the team every day. Definitely kind of a bummer. It's hard to run with, you know, it's easier to run with more people, so that's upsetting. But and then kind of doing the last senior college things, all the activities that kind of go on at Penn State for the seniors.
Yeah.
It's your last semester to kind of, do all those things as a college student, and fortunately not there to kind of do those celebrations. But yeah, trying to stay positive through that. I think that was kind of one of the biggest downers in a sense. It's like there's a lot of kind of Penn State stuff that go on for seniors at the end of the year. And obviously couldn't do any of those. So
Right.
that's kind of, that was a big bummer. But
Yeah.
yeah, so just trying to stay sane through it all.
Yeah, I think that's definitely sort of a key thing. We gotta keep the head on the shoulders.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know, any sort of final thoughts about how you're feeling about all this? I mean, basically, for what I've gathered, is of course, it was very tough transition, but seems like kind of coming into our own now as this
Yeah,
wraps up. We're close to graduation. Speak a little
right.
bit. Yeah, what are the, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about that. What are the current plans for that?
Yeah, so the Penn State has actually, there is a virtual graduation,
Hmm.
which I don't feel the best about just because I don't want to graduate through Zoom. But but there is a virtual graduation, and they have said that hopefully midsummer, when all this hopefully wraps up or things start to kind of die down a little bit. They will have an in-person celebration at some point, either for schools or colleges. Um, but that, of course, is still up in the air. So
Right.
right now there is a set virtual graduation. And I actually did get my cap and gown the other day. So
Amazing.
I will be wearing it at some
Woo!
point. So yeah, there is a graduation, but it is virtual, unfortunately.
Will
But
you be walking across your bedroom?
I will be walking around the town so everyone
Walking.
knows so everyone knows that I'm graduating. Yeah. Yep.
I'll want to zoom in on your Zoom graduation whenever
You you will be getting the invitation.
whenever the Zoom is set. I don't.
Yes, yes, of course.
Zoomers are moving around all over the place. They're zooming, so it's hard
Yeah,
to
they're
find that.
zooming.
They're zooming.
Yeah.
Have teachers been lenient in terms of sort of adjusting to online, or are they still kind of expecting the same work? Like, have syllabi changed at all?
Um, they have changed in the sense of kind of deadlines, moving some deadlines around. Um, but I think for the most part, they're expecting the same kind of level of kind of commitment to the class, which is a good thing. Um, I think, professors and students are doing as much as they can to kind of stay engaged and keep students engaged. But there is the same level of kind of expectation in a sense, which I think is a good thing that should be upheld. There are like dates that have been moved around, which has been a little bit confusing just because, if there's big assignments that have to be due, but they've been moved, it kind of just kind of mixes everything up. But and that's been a little bit of part of like my anxiety, at least, just because I don't know when things are due. I don't know what to do, when to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's been some clarity on all that, so at least we're not kind of kept in the dark about that, which has been really good.
Yeah.
And professors understand like this is a stressful time for everyone, so they try to be as clear as they can be, with in regards to kind of all the restrictions and kind of all the new rules that Penn State has put in place as far as classes go. So trying to stick with it as much as possible, for sure. Yeah.
Do you
But
have any predictions maybe about when things, do start to get lifted and return to normal? How do you think the quarantine phase and sort of just the new reality of the virus being a part of our sort of ecosystem,
yeah,
how do you think it will implicate the college experience? Do you think fraternity parties are forever changed, and will they be checking your fever before going into a football game? Like,
that'd be horrible. That'd be horrible. No, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I do know that it will. It's gonna have an impact for sure. I mean, one of the big things at Penn State is, of course, the fall football games, and
yeah,
I think there's a lot of hesitation around that right now.
yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, you know, there's even been like little Penn State articles that have come out about, questioning whether or not the uh, the football games are going to be happening in the fall. So, I mean, if you're bringing 100,000 people together, that's obviously not a very good thing right now. That is in the fall, so hopefully things will change for students by then. I'd hope, and I'd hate to see that kind of happen to Penn State. It's a huge part of its culture, and I know that students would be pretty disappointed about that returning in the fall. So hopefully that doesn't change things. I do know that as far as kind of the summer, there's a lot of there's a lot of internships that go on for Penn State. They have summer programs, and of course, students aren't returning for those. So I know that's a disappointment for the university. Um, they have a lot of international students that come in over the summer as well, before school. So I know that might be something that they have to deal with, considering this is a global pandemic and they have international students coming in as well.
sure.
So it's definitely a concern, and I think that they're trying to figure it out kind of day by day, because I think this kind of thing is always changing. So they're just trying to manage right now. Yeah.
And you mentioned the summer a little bit. I know we have potentially the Penn State celebration to look forward to, assuming all things are normal. Did you have
Hopefully.
hopefully, right? Did you have any other set plans so far that have now maybe been changed, or are you open to
Um,
opportunity?
yeah. Well, I did have a month and a half trip planned around Europe, so
Okay.
that is no longer happening. Yeah, I was pretty bummed about that. The first, things are still a little bit up in the air. Don't really know exactly what's going to happen. The first stop actually was to Israel to visit our Uncle Martin. Um,
Big fan.
for yeah, June. That would be June 1st.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
and then I'd be traveling until July 15th. Um, so yeah, that's still all up in the air. I think those plans are put on hold a bit, which is of course a huge disappointment, because this was really my summer to travel. It's my summer off before kind of work starts up. So um, yeah, it's a big bummer. I was really looking forward to it. I was going to do some traveling also with my college friends. We were going to take a trip to Nashville. It was kind of our last little hurrah, and just had to cancel those plans just the other day. So yeah, everything's being canceled right now, but hopefully be able to pick them back up at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no summer travel at this point, so that's a big bummer. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a big bummer. Yeah, there was a bunch of music concerts and festivals I would have
yeah,
loved to have gone to. But I think the key to look at it is not canceled, but
right,
postponed,
right,
rescheduled. You will still go
exactly.
on that Euro
I
trip, I promise.
Right. I will be traveling. I will be traveling to see Europe, to see our uncle, to be with friends, but
To
it's
see
all
me.
just gonna
Come on.
have to be yep, it's gonna have to be postponed for a bit. So
Postponed, right. But I do think the world and organizations will recognize
for
what
sure.
what was left behind, what was lost, and hopefully we'll see a more adaptable work culture going forward, giving more people time off and the federal
Definitely.
government giving more people assistance. I mean, I think that's a big thing we've seen with this, is how many people weren't in such a good place, and this, one change to society and, the
Yeah, it's
tenuous
huge.
lifestyle that they have, you're right, it's
It's
now
huge.
impossible to
Yeah,
keep going.
it's going to change everything. I
Yeah.
mean, and it'll be interesting to see how everyone reacts to it, how the culture of our kind of how people come back into reintegrating into society is going to be very interesting. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully in the next few months, though, is my hope.
Yes. Well, luckily everything is still here, and it's not like other potential disasters of the 21st century that people had feared about,
That's
like
very true.
nuclear war or something.
No, we're not there. We're not there.
Yes, we're not there. Luckily, Europe still exists, and you will go on that Europe trip. I guarantee it.
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
yeah, of
Well, Emma, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. Always
course.
wonderful to chat with my cousin and hear how she's
Yes.
doing. And I really appreciate it. We cover a lot of different ground today. I think it was very interesting for the viewers at
Yeah.
home. So,
Thanks for having me.
absolutely. Best of luck finishing up, and definitely send me that date when the Zoom graduation is set. I'll be there.
I will. You'll hear my name being called.
Yes. I'll be ringing a bell from here.
All
All
right, Rube.
right. Bye-bye.